little tiny bit of a tune called Bluesland by the great guitar player Jerry Reed. If you haven't checked out Jerry Reed, specifically with regard to his amazing compositional skills, writing guitar pieces like that little tune right there, or his just total mastery of thumb pick style guitar and his so-called clawing technique, then you definitely got to check him out a little bit more. And that's sort of the purpose of me making a humble little video like this, just to sort of get the word out to other people who maybe haven't really dug into Jerry's work before and really gone into it a little bit of more than just the surface level. Of course, he's got some great, just amazing instrumentals, and of course, Jerry was a fantastic singer, entertainer, movie actor. He was just an all-around talent, no matter how you look at him. But the scope of today's video is just talking about his guitar abilities and the pretty large body of work I think that he left behind. And I am not an expert on Jerry or his playing, and as you can tell, I'm not nowhere near professional guitar player. But I do want to share this because it might help some people who are on their guitar journey and maybe would like to check out some of these books that I'm going to talk about today. This is not a book review. I'm just going through and just sort of collecting some of the things that I've been working on, because I've been like in this huge, I guess, like fascination period, just going through Jerry, checking out different resources on him. So one of the things that I think, this is the first book that I got, it's this one here by Craig Dobbins. It's called The Guitar Style of Jerry Reed. And I'm not sure of the history of this book, but I believe that it went out of print and is back in print now through Hal Leonard. Here's the back of it. So you can see the table of contents and all. And so it's got some really of his really amazing, kind of guitar instrumentals. So that would include Jerry's Breakdown. This is just my personal favorite list here. And then Stumpwater, Swingin' 69, Swarmin', and then some of the stuff that they did on the Jerry and Chet did together, like Nut Sunday, from the the Me and Chet and the Me and Jerry albums that came out, and one of which won a Grammy, the other I believe was Grammy nominated. And you can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments and all that. But this is really just a humble little video, just sharing some knowledge. So this is the first book, and it does a pretty good job. Here's Stumpwater, of breaking it out in standard notation and of course tablature to try to get inside some of Jerry's fingerings, which are quite unique, right? They're unique. The way that he would use a lot of times just his middle finger and his ring finger, and he would kind of skip using the index finger altogether. Of course using a thumb pick too. But I feel like Craig Dobbins, the author of the book, did a fantastic job of giving us some insight into how Jerry approached the guitar, which, I haven't talked much about myself, but my background really is it's more in jazz guitar. I studied classical guitar as well when I was in my college years, and I'm just an amateur musician. I'm not, professional or anything, but this is something that I do really encourage anyone, no matter what style you like, you should really check out some of this music. I mean, you're going to learn something about blues, number one, because there's certain little licks that Jerry could do that were so blues oriented. Little things. Just stuff that it's going to enhance your vocabulary. So and I wanted to also share this book, which is kind of another compilation of some of Jerry's greatest hits. I find that this one has some of the good ones, like Guitar Man, which is just a beast of a tricky little tune to play. And it's also got some of his other stuff, as you can see here from the back. So this is another good book. It's a bit more, it's got the claw in it, right? Jerry's famous his little riff, and so on and so forth. So I feel like that's a pretty good transcription. I believe that the author mentions that was based off of John Knowles' famous transcriptions of Jerry, which So this is a book that has gone out of print, and this is one that a friend of mine kind of said, here you go, I got this, you know what I mean, being out there. I wish this was in print so I could, so we could give credit where credit is due here. So this is just another off the cuff suggestion, but Jerry Reed, gotta love this title, Heavy Neckin', right? So every time my wife looks at this book, she like laughs at it because it's a pretty silly title. I mean, but then again, that was Jerry. He was a heck of a guitar player among all of his other talents. Pretty heavy duty player. So this one has these, well, here we go. On the back, here's the table of contents of this. The Claw. I mean, these are some of the all-time greatest ones you gotta learn. So The Claw, Struttin', Mr. Lucky, Reedology, Jiffy Jam, Bluefinger, and The Early Dawn. Fun fact I just heard like the other night, I was in like a Zoom like group chat, and John Knowles was talking about some of his experiences with Jerry, and he knew Jerry personally, and there's a picture of John right there with Jerry on the back of this book. And John was talking about how Bluefinger, really, if you listen to the beginning of that song, that bass line was really just something that Jerry played around with, and you might hear the idea, the bass line kind of in some of his other tunes, like the story goes that Chet heard him playing that kind of while Chet was like on the phone and Jerry was playing in the background, and this became something that got written down eventually, but I think it originated as like an improvisational type of piece. Don't quote me on that, but just really cool. I mean, just to hear about how these tunes were written. So that's one that I recommend. And I also, going along, I know Craig Dobbins has some other material out there too that is super duper, like on his website. Not everything is, on Hal Leonard, right? You gotta go straight through Craig. So there's also this right here, Reedology, first 10 albums. And this just has some annotated and brief licks from exactly what it says, Jerry's first 10 albums. I think these are mostly on the RCA label once he got the unbelievable guitar and voice of Jerry Reed, of course. And my personal favorite, I just have to say, is, of course, it's hard to pick a favorite, but my favorite is Jerry Reed Explores Guitar Country. That's just like the end-all, be-all Jerry Reed record to check out. And that's not even the scope of this video, is the recording is more I'm talking about books, tablature books, notation books. But if you get a chance, gotta listen to this one. Jerry Reed Explores Guitar Country, 1969. So, and that, that's where I just love this song. The Georgia on My Mind, Jerry's intro, and I won't even attempt anymore because it's a tricky one, but the jazz influences there are real, and there's so much harmonic, just cool little things he does with that A7 flat 13 chord, like these little things, and a lot of these little like bluesisms. I don't really know what to call them, but double stops that he would do. Rich chords like that A flat 13 dominant chord. So I think the whole point of this, just to try to tie it together, is there's a lot of material out there to learn from, but the most important thing too is just to listen and do your own transcriptions as well before you go to sheet music, if you're so inclined. I think there's a lot of benefit. You can really internalize the music better if you do some of your own transcribing, and that's really what it means to be a musician, is to work on your ear and develop that, as well as develop your reading and ability to read sheet music. So, but yeah, I did just want to also mention as well some other things you can check out are there's a YouTube channel, Francois Leduc. He has a ton of Jerry Reed transcriptions. He's got some of the ones that aren't in the books I mentioned, like Wayfaring Stranger is a really good one. It has a really cool, like, kind of like chord, descending minor line. And I'm not playing it exactly, but just gorgeous. And then the singing and the way that Jerry plays the solo, and he like doubles it with the scat singing in his voice. A light bulb went off for me, and that just, I mean, it sounds like what George Benson did later on with This Masquerade, and the way that he would play. So I mean, just more proof that, like, as a guitar player, Jerry's influence really runs through multiple genres, and it's something that I wish I would have found out sooner. I wish somebody would have come and told. Like, I've been playing guitar for my whole life basically, and I'm over 30 years old, you know, and so, like, I wish somebody would have told me sooner. Hey man, like, you got to check out this guy Jerry Reed. Like, he's kind of got it all going on. So I'll share one final story that I heard, and I think this was another John Knowles kind of listening. Either it was a YouTube video I heard or something, or through the grapevine. And back when Jerry first started writing, well, first time he kind of got with Chet Atkins, he sent Chet, I believe he sent him a few pieces, you know, to try to check out before Jerry had moved to Nashville. And of course, Chet was, you know, just such a giant in the guitar world. And so Chet loved what Jerry wrote for him. Like, he was like, wow, really blown away. I think there's a couple pieces like Down Home and some of those early ones, like from that recording, which is also out of print. Chet Atkins picks on Jerry Reed. I can't really find that. It's on YouTube, but you can't really find it like out there. At least I couldn't find it on Apple Music or anything. But yeah, so back when Jerry, you know, went into the studio, and Chet said, well, you know, come in and we'll play. And Jerry was showing Chet some stuff, and one of the things that was sort of difficult, I think, for Chet, again, this isn't meant to reduce his, you know, stature, but was like Jerry's compositional style. And Jerry was thinking of these things like in terms of lines, like moving and, you know, counterpoint, right? So like the whole idea of like moving lines, like oblique motion, contrary motion, and there's tons of examples of that throughout Jerry's compositions. So Chet was used to thinking in chords, and Jerry was really thinking in terms of moving lines, and it took Chet a little while to kind of grasp that, because Chet would ask Jerry, like, well, what's that chord? And Jerry would say, you know, well, it's this, you know. And it was like, what? So that it was interesting how the two of them were so different, but yet, you know, they made music that really just that they really cross-pollinated each other. When you listen to some of those old recordings, like me and Chet, me and Jerry, without a Chet Atkins, there wouldn't have been a Jerry Reed. But without a Jerry Reed, I'm not sure that Chet would have done what he did, you know, what he did in his career as well. So with that, I don't think I'm missing anything. There's a couple other good things that I'm sure that I'm not mentioning, and that's the point. Is let me know what else is out there that you would highly recommend in order to learn more about Jerry and his style and his playing. And I'll leave it at that. So thanks for coming by and checking out my video. Have a good one, guys.